Thank you for participating in our 2024 WhistleStop Candidate Hobnob. By purchasing a video interview, you have allowed our chamber to educate the citizens of Polk County about the upcoming election and the issues and candidates on the ballot. Thank you. Since your campaign has purchased this video interview, the Florida Divisions of Elections does require you to close that fact with the following statement.
Political advertisement paid for and approved by Sara Beth Wyatt, candidate for Polk County School Board, District 4.
Perfect. Let's begin. So first, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me today, Madeline. I am excited to get to share a little bit about myself and why I'm running for school board again. So as we said, I'm Sara Beth Wyatt. I have been on the school board for the past 2 terms. So I ran for the first time in 2016. And a little bit about me. So I am product of Polk County Public Schools, kindergarten through high school. I graduated from Winter Haven High School, went off to the University of Florida, came back and was working for a nonprofit in Lakeland, working with students a lot with mentorship programs, scholarship programs, congressional classroom, and was running into a lot of red tape. So I was complaining to my family at dinner every Friday night about all of the woes of getting involved in the schools and helping to support the school system. And my dad finally looked at me and said, listen, you can shut up or do something about it, but we are not going to have this conversation every Friday night at dinner. So I think I surprised everyone in my life at that point and decided to run for office. So that was 8 years ago. A lot has happened in the past 8 years. We've had a superintendent change. We had a little thing called COVID, which if you had told me in 2016 that we would be navigating a global pandemic in my first term as a school board member, I would have never believed you. But we have had a lot of challenges over the past 8 years, and I think a lot of successes. So fast forward to today, there's some things I'm really proud of that we've done. So in 2016, when I came onto the board, our average per pupil funding from the state was about $6,900. We've increased that by over 25%. So today we are in a much better place just per pupil funding. We've been able to advocate for lots of different programs at the state level. At the local level, we've been able to cut some of that red tape, make it easier for people to get into our classrooms. We developed the community liaison position, which was a pilot out of the Winter Haven area. So we now have a person whose sole responsibility is to help the business community, help our community at large, get involved in our classrooms and support our schools, which was really a challenge in 2016, talking to people that were interested in, I would love to contribute, I would love to volunteer, I would love to support, but I can't figure out how to do that. There's red tape in even getting involved in helping students. So that I think we've made some great strides in. We are second in the nation in career academies, which is one of my big initiatives, is making sure that our students not only are prepared for the life after high school, but that they have options so that they are either ready for college or career, that they know what their opportunities are. So I think there's a lot of great things we have going. So one major thing in my life that has changed in the past 8 years is that I now have a 10-month-old. So having your own kids changes your perspective a little bit on a lot of things. Went back and forth this year as to whether or not I wanted to run for another term. And now I look down at him and think, oh my gosh, I have so many more things I want to finish before you start kindergarten. So that's why I'm running again. It's because, we've gotten a lot of progress and we've made a lot of accomplishments and big strides over the past 8 years, but I think I have a little bit more work to be done.
Awesome. Perfect. What is the biggest opportunity for your district in this next legislative session?
Yeah, so I think growth, you'll probably hear in every race across Polk County in the state of Florida, growth is our biggest challenge, but it is also our biggest opportunity. We in Polk County, we have thousands of students moving to Polk County every year. On average, the past 4 to 5 years, we've had 3,000 to 5,000 new students every year. To put it in perspective, that is 2 very full high schools, but not all of the students that come here are high schools and in the same area and need one school. So growth is a challenge, but I think it's also an opportunity because it allows us to reach more students, but it allows us to have more partnerships. We have some great charter schools out there. We have great magnet schools. We are able to offer a lot more programs as we we look at adding additional schools, adding additional capacity to schools. I think we have some great opportunities with growth. I also think, there's a couple state laws that have changed recently. One of those is the Florida Education Finance Program, which is how we get funded, which changed 2 years ago. Our delegation member, Josie Tomko, led that charge. And so it gives us a lot more flexibility in how we spend our dollars, making sure that they are going to the best fit each of our students and schools' needs. With that, we are transitioning to a school-based budgeting model. So instead of getting their staffing plan from the district, they will have their budget and they are able to staff their schools as appropriate. We know that every school looks a little bit different. The needs of an Inwood Elementary School are very different than the needs of a Winter Haven High School. So we want to make sure that every school is able to staff their schools appropriately to use their dollars as best fits their students and their demographic needs. So I think those are a couple of the big opportunities that we have. And I want to make sure I can answer all the questions. So I don't want to go too much deeper.
All good. This one kind of ties into this. What are your top 2 or 3 priorities if reelected?
Yeah, I would say one of my top priorities is making sure that we have advanced curriculum programs at every school. So we have seen the successes of IB, which is at Bartow and Haines City, of Cambridge, which is at Winter Haven and now Tinnerock. But you shouldn't have to transfer to a different high school to have accelerated curriculum and be eligible for one of those advanced program degrees. So making sure that we have an opportunity at every high school. Now, they might not be the same opportunity. It doesn't make sense to have an IB program and a Cambridge program and an AP program and a collegiate program all at the same school, but making sure that every high school has something. And then taking that a step further to start to look at the feeder patterns. It does not make sense that we have feeder pattern schools that have an IB elementary school, an IB middle school, and then a Cambridge high school. Making sure that students are able to matriculate through the curriculum from kindergarten through high school, if that's what they choose to do. If they want to switch in the middle, that's great. We have opportunities for that too at other schools, but making sure that the traditional feeder pattern all lines up so that students get a seamless education. Further from that, making sure that we have opportunities at every school for college and career academies, making sure that students are getting an equal experience. You shouldn't have to transfer to the school across town because you want to get a great education. Making sure that every school is a destination, making sure that every school has the career academy opportunities, particularly in our high schools, but even looking down into middle and elementary. We talk so much about our magnet schools and our STEM schools. Winter Haven has a real problem with magnet schools because we do not have a traditional elementary school in North Winter Haven. Right now that Garner is a magnet school, we don't have anywhere to zone those kids. So making sure that we have opportunities at every school, that every school is a destination, and that students can go as close to home as possible if they choose to do that. School choice is great, but we want to make sure that there are options to choose.
Perfect. What do you consider the biggest challenge of the position you are running for?
I would say the biggest challenge in general for education, we're educating 120 students, essentially. We're getting closer and closer to that number. I would imagine by the end of this school year, we'll be at 120,000. That's a lot of students. It's a lot of different people that we're trying to raise into great citizens. So making sure that we can fit the needs of every student and do that with fidelity. Some big challenges in the school system right now. Funding is always going to be a challenge, making sure that we can pay teachers as the professionals that they are, making sure that we are giving them the latitude to be able to go off and educate kids and do so in a manner that they can be most successful in. I would say from a student perspective, and this is not going to be popular with our kids, technology is a challenge because we want our students to learn to be 21st century learners. Every student that graduates high school is going to end up in a position where they need to know how to use email. They need to know how to use the internet. They are probably going to need to know how to use ChatGPT, whether or not we want to talk about that yet. But that is what our future holds. So making sure that students know how to utilize that, but also keeping them safe online. So if you have not read Anxious Generation, I highly encourage you to do so. But Jonathan Haidt in his book talks a lot about how, we say that COVID is when everything changed, but really if we look back, social media in 2010 is really where everything changed, and putting cell phones in students' hands and how distracted it makes us as individuals. So making sure that we're not only teaching students how to navigate the digital age, but making sure that we're able to teach them how to do so well. My biggest pet peeve is when I go to graduations and someone can't look me in the eye and shake my hand, because that is a huge component of soft skills. So making sure that we're still, amongst the reading, writing, arithmetic, the things that are most important that we teach students, teaching them to go out in the real world and be able to look someone in the eye, to have a conversation with an adult, to shake somebody's hand is also really important to me.
Perfect. And for my last question, why should voters choose you over the other candidate?
I would say I have the experience as a school board member. I have worked really hard over the past 8 years to build relationships with our local schools, with our state delegation, with our community at large. A big part of this job is just being able to navigate the system, to know who to call and where to direct someone to if there's a transportation issue or if there's a grants issue. So I have done that work and can start day one in this next term, really just continuing the work that I've been able to accomplish thus far. I would say we've had some big wins. Things I think I've done a great job in seeing a need and figuring out how we can cut the red tape for that need. A great example is we realized that we were having to move teachers the first week of school based on VAM scores. Why was that? It's because we weren't getting the VAM scores until the second week of school. So making sure that, I worked with our delegation to write legislation to make sure that we have VAM scores now before school starts, so that doesn't affect our student outcomes. Those are little things that seem minute, but they make a big difference. When your teacher changes the first week of school, it is hard to find a new teacher to come in, but it makes it difficult for parents, for the teachers, for the students. So any barriers like that we can remove are things that I'm very passionate about. Another one of the things that I think I've been able to accomplish in my first term is making sure that we're as transparent as possible. We've done an efficiency audit in the past year that we're implementing those now. We started Inside PCPS, which is essentially a community outreach program where we're able to bring our community members into the school district to show them where does the money go? What does transportation look like? What is it like to be a lunch lady? And really bring them into the fold and show them what we're doing with every dollar, how we run our schools. And I think that's been really successful. I come from a family of educators. It was a really big deal when I went to college and did not want to major in education. But God has a sense of humor, and I think he's called me right back to it in a different capacity and in a way that I can best support our community and our kids. So I am excited and honored to do that. And, it's a weighty responsibility to truly represent the entire community when you're talking about some of our most vulnerable individuals, which are our students. So it's a big job, and I take it very seriously that we get the opportunity to educate the future. And I can't wait to be able to say that a graduate from Polk County Public School is my doctor or my lawyer or the person taking care of me one day, because our kids are up to the challenge and they're the future.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
Awesome. Thank you again so much for having me, Madeline.